Hi, everybody. Sherry Truhlar with Red Apple Auctions. Today, I want to share with you some audio visual tips when it comes to hybrid galas, which is such a timely topic, given that we're all talking about this. As we leave what is hopefully the worst of the pandemic behind us, everybody is talking about hybrid galas. I had recently attended an event, a conference, virtually I attended, that was a week and a half ago. The National Auctioneers Association had their conference in Minneapolis, but I chose to attend virtually. And the gentleman who provided this information is with an AV company in Minneapolis. Josh is his name. His company is AV4U, and you can check him out. Josh Reitan, R-E-I-T-A-N. That's where I got these tips. It's timely specifically because for me, I just conducted my first hybrid event 2 days ago in Martha's Vineyard, which is an island off of Cape Cod in Massachusetts. And this is a client that I've worked with before. Last year, they went virtual, as so many of us did. And then this year, they went hybrid. So there was a lot that I learned just from participating in that. They had, and hybrid for you might be different than what theirs is. Everybody's different, but they had 60, maybe 80 people who attended in person. I was on the stage. In fact, that was the license that they had. I had to be 25 feet from the first row, sort of a thing. Seth Meyers was the MC. He was wonderful. This is the second year that he's done that. And it's really nice working with him. Particularly, we were chatting beforehand. I said, look, this is just, I don't know how this is going to go. I'm working with new technology. This is just a different vibe. But he made that so easy. So I guess that's why he gets paid what he does, because he knows how to make people feel comfortable. So that was fun. I'll share another tip that I learned in this process as well in a little bit. And then let's see, what else did we have? Oh, well, the online auction. So the silent auction was an all 100% online auction. Those items are closing tonight for that group, but they're live items. They're 9 live items. They also were online. So there was no delay like the other items are closing tonight. With the live items, those opened and closed throughout the course of the broadcast. We ran those in 5-minute increments. And then we had a fund to need, which is still open. It's still open. So it just means so many different things. The crowd there was just modest, like I said, maybe 60, maybe 80, but then they were estimating anywhere from 200 to 300 that were going to be participating on the virtual stream. And I'm sure there'll be some videos of this. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll post a couple of links below as to the press on this, because I have seen a couple of articles that came out. So if you want to learn more about that event or what they did, you can do some research on that on your own. Okay, so let's go through these tips from Josh, and we'll see how it ties into what I've seen and experienced or no. First, he says, you want to make the virtual audience feel like they are right there with you in the room. So one way that you do that is you use more than one camera. If you have multiple angles, it will increase the production value a lot. So for instance, those of you that participated in the Future of School Auctions free training that I did in June, you saw at least a couple of times where the production company would go ahead and have a shot from behind so that you would see me from behind as I spoke to the camera. So the wide angle shot helps the virtual audience feel more connected. Number 2, use ambient noise. The audio engineer can make a big difference, says Josh. If you add an ambient mic to capture the audience, it will create a sense in the room. The audio feels more natural and the audience feels more connected. And I think back to when we first started to see these virtual events that rolled out of the West Coast. There was one that I shared with many of you in our conversation series that was from an Episcopal school. And one of the things I said again and again is I loved the fact that they had a piano player there in the studio who was providing background music. It just made the whole broadcast feels so much more upscale. So ambient noise is the second one that Josh talks about. Number 3 is good lighting. It becomes so much more important when you're doing a hybrid event. On Sunday, interestingly, we didn't have extra light, but we were outside underneath a white tent. Now, normally, bright sunny skies, it's very, very bright, and that tent helps to diffuse the light. It did turn out that it was raining drizzly all day long on Sunday, so we were under the tent. It was a little darker than the prior day when we did rehearsal, and my hair, of course, goes straight right away. I wasn't looking like anything but a drowned rat, but from the standpoint of diffused light, maybe that is better on a rainy day than even a super bright day. Use picture, I'm not sure, but that I'm guessing. Use picture in picture, says Josh. That's when you have, like, if I was speaking, maybe I drop down to the bottom right, and then the bigger picture is the slides of whatever I'm selling. That would be an example of picture in picture. He also said, have a countdown clock that is synced to the live screens and the virtual screens. In-person events have a hard time starting on time. Don't we know it? And it leaves the virtual audience just sitting there. Here's one of the things that I learned and I thought was interesting. So I already mentioned that on Sunday with the live items, we opened those and closed those in 5-minute segments throughout the broadcast. Now, with online auctions, the impetus to bid is always going to be just as you're getting ready to close the item. That's when people bid. Now, in a live auction, we kind of go until there aren't any more bids. But if you say you're closing it in 5 minutes, I can guarantee you most of the bids are going to come in as you get closer to those 5 minutes. What I didn't expect, but now I will know going forward, is when I'm speaking about an item and I tell people, hey, guys, the bidding's open. You can bid whenever you want. I might be describing the item, but I see the bids are coming in. But with Seth there, that was not the case. People didn't want to bid or have their nose in their phones if Seth was on stage talking or if he was interacting with someone, because I think, he's a celebrity and people want to hear what he has to say. Is he going to look at me? They want to pay attention to Seth. They don't want to pay attention to their phone. So from that standpoint, they would bid, but they didn't bid until he was done, if you will. They'll bid during my talking, and I totally get this. I understand why it's happening, but they aren't going to necessarily be distracted when Seth is talking. So that's something that you might want to keep in mind if you've got celebrities working with you too. I wouldn't expect the bidding to be fast and furious while those celebrities are talking. It's going to be quiet because people are going to say, oh, what is he going to say? What is he going to say? What else? He said it's nice to have some exclusive content for the virtual audience, like maybe have the host go backstage and address the virtual audience directly. And then they will get to the virtual audience will get to follow that host out on stage as they come out. So very similar to what you see on the late night programs where maybe a guest is being followed by the camera out onto the stage itself. Now, he also gave some tips for the venue requirements for hybrid. He said you want to have a dedicated internet, hardline dedicated internet from the venue with a minimum of 10 megabytes of upload speed. He said if you use Wi-Fi, it's only going to cause problems for you. I think we knew that already. Number two, if the venue cannot provide the required internet, he says you'll want to look at what's called a bonded solution. He says ideally something with a hot failover. He said broadcast news uses this almost exclusively. It said they used to use a satellite truck, but now they use multiple SIM cards. Like one SIM card is T-Mobile, one is Sprint, one is AT&T, and it's bonded together. I believe he called it a jet pack. And so if the internet drops for any reason, that is going through one of the other providers right there. He also said for hybrid events for the venues, you want to have a very high ceiling. It's more critical when you're lighting the stage for a broadcast. And he also said that make sure the backdrop looks good on camera because the camera will see things differently. Don't use a black backdrop. He said use a gray one instead. He said it looks better with nice uplighting. I will say this, what I learned from the virtual events last year is a lot of the combinations, like clothing combinations that I'd put together, I would never wear those in person, but on camera, they looked pretty good. So I think the same is true here. He's saying, look, gray is better. You're just going to have to pay attention to kind of what's going on because it just looks different on camera. Certainly that's the case. Like you're not supposed to wear small stripes on camera or small patterns because sometimes that camera might make it look like the skin is starting, or the fabric is starting to crawl or it's moving. So you want to keep away from those small patterns. I think that's the gist of what he's getting here with this as well. Things look differently on camera versus they do in real life. And he said one dire warning, and boy, I can agree with this as well. He said there was so much contraction in the events industry last year. It's going to create a huge supply problem as pent up demand returns to events. There just won't be enough capacity for busy season in the markets. So it's important to book the vendors earlier. Last year, we had a lot of businesses that went out of business. People found new jobs. There's not as many vendors now out there. So if you're looking to plan your 2021, late 2021, 22 event, book now because the vendors that you used might not be available or they're already booked as dates got shifted and moved. I'm seeing that right now. For 2021 on the books, I've got in-person event only in-person events, only virtual events, and I have and hybrid events. All three of those are going on in 2021. People are already shuffling around for dates, trying to find things that work for them. So if you had reliable vendors and now those vendors are no longer reliable because they're not around, what are you going to do? You got to make sure that you allow yourself enough time to book who you need to book in order to have a successful event. So there you have it. Some of the AV requirements from Josh. Again, the company is AV4U up in Minneapolis. Thank you, Josh, for those tips. I'm Sherry Truhlar with Red Apple Auctions. Friends, if you're looking for some helpful advice, or you're looking for an auction partner to work with you on your upcoming event, whatever type of event that might be, please give me a call. That's at redappleauctions.com. I look forward to seeing you there. As always, hey, good luck to you in your fundraising gala.